Hello out there in VC land, it's Matt, and I've got a couple of days off of work on vacation, and so I thought why not do a Paul McCartney album review since I've been doing those in order of release. And so with that, we come to February 7th, 2012 release, which is Kisses on the Bottom. So here's the album, got the cover. There's Paul with a big bunch of flowers or a bushel of barley. I'm not really sure what he's holding there. And the back cover, not a whole lot to it, is kind of a frame around the song titles. Inside the gatefold, a little bit better, we've got pictures of the various people that play on the album. The most notable two, other than Paul, being Diana Krall, the jazz musician who's married to Elvis Costello, and Eric Clapton plays guitar on two songs, at least two songs, maybe a couple, maybe more, but at least two. So there's what that looks like. We've got the inner sleeves. It's a double album. This one just has the song titles and the breakdown of who plays what on each song. The back of the sleeve is just blank, other than some little catalog number down there. The other sleeve has an interview with Paul where he's talking about the songs, how he chose them, and what they mean to him. Kind of an interesting interview, talking about old days when he was a little kid listening to his parents and relatives play music, and a blank on the other side, just like the first sleeve. The album itself, one of them is still on the turntable, but they both look the same. There's the album, there's the label for you, which is the same on all four sides, other than the song listing, of course. So you got that. So yeah, 2012 this came out. Paul had been on a pretty good run of albums here of late. This is an album of all covers, with the exception there's two original songs by Paul, but the rest of them are songs from the 30s and 40s, the old-timey songs. The album, chart-wise, did okay. It got to number 3 in England, and it got to number 5 in America. Not sure how much that means, though. I think it might be a little misleading, because this album and the later McCartney albums from around this time and after, I think what happens is you're kind of seeing that happen with the new album that's coming out. There was ranked number 1 on eBay pre-sales right now, but the week it comes out, all the Beatle people rush out and buy these and send them up the charts, but then a week or two in, they tumble down pretty quick because they don't get a lot of airplay. The general public either doesn't care, doesn't know that they're out, and it's not like the McCartney albums from back in the 70s and early 80s where, they got a lot of airplay and they had a lot of appeal to the hardcore Beatle fans, the casual Beatle fans, just the regular general public that liked rock and roll and pop. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen so much anymore. Maybe with the new album, the Egypt album, with all the promotion he's been doing lately, maybe that'll get a little bit more notice. Let's hope so. But yeah, so this one finds Paul taking a page out of Ringo's playbook and copying Ringo's first solo album, Sentimental Journey, which also had a lot of the old pop standards from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And it's, before my time music, of course, but it's music that I sort of grew up with because that was the music my parents listened to. A lot of Bing Crosby and Sinatra and Lennon Sisters and that sort of thing, and my grandparents too. So I heard that stuff growing up. When I was a little kid, I thought it was pretty cornball, but as I got older, I came to appreciate it a little bit. But in my heart of hearts, I've always been a rock and roll and soul fan, and while I like this stuff, I do have some Crosby and Sinatra albums, a few of them, and I do pull them out and listen to them when I'm in the mood. But by and large, I have to be in the mood for this sort of stuff. So, given my druthers, I'd rather be listening to the Beatles or the Ramones or something over this sort of stuff, even though it is really good music. The problem right off, I think Ringo's take on this genre of music succeeds better than Paul's does. this album by Paul is very tastefully and nicely done. It's not a terrible album by any means, but it's not a very exciting album either, and it's not one that I didn't wasn't crazy about it when it came out back in 2012, and it's not one that I pulled out and played very often in the years since. In fact, I had to give it a listen here a couple of days ago, and I listened to it 3 times through just to refamiliarize myself with it. And again, there's really nothing wrong with it other than a lot of the songs. If I had a choice between listening to Paul or Ringo's album of this stuff, I would pick Ringo's, I think, pretty much almost every time. Paul's album, Paul's take on this is a lot of these songs kind of, they're all nice, but they all have a same feel, if not sound exactly, but sort of just the same mood and feel to them. And so about 2 or 3 songs into this album, it's tempting to pick the needle up and put it away and move on to something else. I'm not saying that it's painful to listen to. It just gets a little tiresome for me. But if you like these old classics from the 30s and 40s, you know, maybe it's something that you'll like. But let's just go into the songs here. So side one opens with "I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Write Myself a Letter." It's a 1935 song that was made a big hit by Fats Waller, but also through the years, Frank Sinatra, Bill Haley, Fabian, and the America's Greatest Actor Tony Danza did cover versions of it. It's a Sets the mood. It's a nice opener for the album. I'll give it a 6. Second song is called "Home When Shadows Fall." This is from 1931, which was a hit for Louis Armstrong. Other people that covered it were Harry James's orchestra, Jackie Gleason, The Ventures, Sam Cooke, and Slim Whitman, among others. Quite a few covered this song. Kind of sounds, it doesn't sound like the first song, but it just sort of the same feel of the first song, just a little less. So I'm going to give "Home" a 5. Number 3 is "It's Only a Paper Moon," which is a song that most of us are probably going to be familiar with. Some of these songs on here are well known, and some of them are pretty obscure, unless I guess if you were around in the 30s or 40s when they came out. But "It's Only a Paper Moon," that of course was the old movie from the 70s, Paper Moon, but the song came out itself in 1933, and it's been done by Miles Davis, Bing Crosby, Count Basie, and others. Pretty good version of a well-known song by Paul. I'm going to give that one a 7. So we move on to song number 4 on side 1, which is "More I Cannot Wish You," which was a song from the musical Guys and Dolls that I don't think it ended up in the finished musical or play. I'm not sure how Paul came to know about it, but it's a song that he, in the play, it was supposed to be someone singing to his granddaughter, and since Paul had a little daughter at the time, Beatrice, I think she is, who would have been, I don't know, 5 or so at the time, he thought that was a good song to sing to her, and that's why he picked it, is what he said. Pretty good, give it a 6. So we turn over to side 2. So there's only 4 songs per side. So there's these album sides are pretty short here. They really probably almost could have gotten this on a single album. But side 2 opens with "The Glory of Love," which is another well-known song from the old days. 1936 it was written. Benny Goodman and another band called the Five Keys both had a #1 hit with it, I think that year, maybe 1937. Otis Redding has done a cover of it. And the cover that I'm most familiar with, it's one of my favorites, is Big Bill Broonzy, the great old blues guy that died in the 50s. He did a really good job of it. Unfortunately, Paul doesn't do such a good job of it. It's just a fair at best cover by Paul, so I'm going to give it a 4, which is a shame because it's a really good song. Second song on side 2 is "We Three," My Echo, My Shadow, and Me. song from 1939 that's was done by the Ink Spots and Sinatra, among others. I'm going to give it a 5. By this point in the album, the sound and the mood of the record is just really kind of dragging and sounding the same. It's again, like I said, there's nothing terrible about this album, but it's just one that it's always been hard for me to work up too much enthusiasm for, because Paul kind of just basically covers the songs. He doesn't do anything different or unique or new with them. It's just pretty much a straight ahead cover. And to be honest, this just sounds like you walked into some upscale yuppie fern bar and there's sort of a cocktail jazz band playing over in the corner while you're sipping your martinis, and just background noise music. Really, a lot of this, even though these are great old songs and all, it's just, and it makes me think of how the Beatles did covers early on, and they took them and they made them their own, and they changed them around and they breathed new life into them. And here you've got Paul sounding like he's in a good mood, but also sounding a little tired and just sort of doing a bland, straight ahead, unoriginal covers of all these songs, I'm afraid to say. But We Three, I give it a 5. Then we go to another well-known song that probably everyone's heard, Accentuate the Positive. This is a song from 1944 that's been done by a ton of people. Kay Kaiser, Connie Francis did a cover, and a bunch of other people. Good old song that kind of like Glory of Love, Paul just does a so-so job of covering. I'm going to give that one a 4. Then we come to the first original by Paul, was My Valentine, and I do remember hearing this a few times on the radio. Diana Krall plays on this one. I think she plays on most of the songs on this album. Eric Clapton plays guitar on this. Paul used for recording, he recorded a lot of this at the old Capitol Records headquarters in Los Angeles that we've all seen, the building that kind of looks like pancakes stacked up. And he used Nat King Cole's old microphone for a lot of these songs, which is kind of a cool touch. But My Valentine's pretty solid, good song, and it sounds like a song that could have been written back and released back in the 30s or the 40s. So that's pretty cool, and it's a good love song. I'm guessing I'm not guessing. I've read that it's something he'd written on a piano for his current wife, Nancy. So a good love song. I'm going to give it a 7. It's pretty good. So when we get to, there's 4 songs on side 2. We go on to side 3 of the album, which opens with the song Always, which is another one that a lot of you probably heard before. It's written in 1925, which is kind of neat. That's the year both my parents were born. Guy Lombardo, Sinatra, Peggy Lee, a bunch of people have done these songs. Paul's version is not bad. It's not good. It's okay. I'm going to dedicate this rating to Joe Mean Mr. Mayo, because I know he loves it when I do this. I'm going to give it a 6.385, Joe. So that's for you, and enjoy that. Second song on side 3, My Very Good Friend the Milkman. Catchy, nice song. I didn't write down who wrote it or what year it's from, but kind of a neat song. I'm going to give that a 7. Paul does a pretty good job on that. Third song on side 3, and there's only 3 songs on side 3, so it's a very short side, but another song that we've all heard, Bye Bye Blackbird from 1926. One of the cornerstones of the Great American Songbook there. Everyone knows that song. Paul's version, it's okay. Let's give it a 5. It's neither here nor there. We go on to side 4. Get Yourself Another Fool is the first song, and I didn't have what year or who wrote that originally, but old song, good song. Starts off kind of boring, but there's a nice bit of guitar toward the end of it, so I bumped the routes. I'm going to give it a 4. I bumped the rating up to the 6 because at the end the guitar comes in, and that's another guest starring role for Eric Clapton, and nice bit of guitar, probably the first sort of interesting thing Clapton had done since Bell Bottom Blues, I guess, back in 1970 or 71. But anyway, Uh, Second song on side 4 is called The Inchworm, which is a kind of silly, funny, almost a kid's song, but kind of goofy, kind of catchy, kind of fun. Uh, Maybe the best on the album. I'm going to give that an 8. And it's got a children's chorus, which is usually bad news in a song. It usually means it's going to be kind of saccharine and silly, but it works here because it is an old song from the 30s or the 40s. So I give the Inchworm an 8 and would say that's probably the highlight of this album. Uh, Third song, and there's only 3 songs on side 4, is called Only Our Hearts, which is another song that Paul wrote. Stevie Wonder's on here playing harmonica. Um, I guess My Valentine's probably better than this one, even though this one's pretty good. I'm going to give it a 6. So that wraps up the album. There was a bonus track, which probably should have been on the album, Baby's Request, which was a song that was originally on Back to the Egg. And here he redoes it in this old 30s style of music. I like the Back to the Egg better, but this has some good parts. I like the muted wah 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 trumpet on it. I like the kind of coda at the end of the song, and really should have been on the album. I think proper. I'm going to give that one a 7.5. So overall, this album, I'm going to give it. I guess I'll give it a 6 because it's really, like I said, there's this. It's not a bad album, but it's not a very exciting album either. It's not one that I have ever found myself in the mood to listen to very often, if ever, since I bought it. This is if you really, really love the old 30s and 40s music, and I'm not knocking it, it's great stuff. Like I said, I remember hearing my parents and grandparents listening to this stuff, so it makes me think of them and all that, and that's a good thing. But it's kind of music that I listen to once in a while when I'm in the mood, but not very often. So good songwriting, good singing. I'll give it a 6. It's unless you just love that kind of music or you're a really huge Paul fan, this is probably an album you can skip. Uh, Not bad, not good. It gets a 6, and I'll be back with the next Paul album whenever I'm back. Hope you all have a good day, and we'll talk to you later.